Ladies and gentlemen, a Protoss versus Protoss series between Doglived and Kasuga. On Watchpoint, we've got 3 games to cast here. Protoss versus Protoss is something I haven't seen too much of, so I'm eager to see some more in Cosmonarchy. Kasuga is going to be our black Protoss in the top right, and Doglived our dark lavender Protoss in the bottom left. And these guys always stick with the same colors, so expect them to be those colors every single time. Our Twitch Gamba is up, so you guys can take a look at that if you are so interested. I see that we got Mecha in the chat doing my part on the Twitch viewer count, but hard to compete with other streamers. Yeah, it can be. It can be a little bit difficult. Sometimes we'll get a raid, and then we'll stay steady at like 15, 20 Twitch viewers for a while. That's usually our best bet, but we'll see what happens. We'll see as we grow. I think people are still getting used to the steady schedule and steady stream of streams, funnily enough. But we do appreciate all of that, and of course we appreciate people supporting the stream via those Streamlabs donations, streamlabs.com/Chronogo, if you want to support the daily grind. I guess I should say the week daily grind, but I am always working on Cosmonarchy, even on days where I'm, oh, I got D&D. Well, until D&D, since my prep is good from other days, I'm working on Cosmonarchy. It's just the way it is. Sunday actually was super busy. I was doing tons of outreach for tournaments, show matches and whatnot. I was doing loads of bug investigations and code cleanup and stuff like that. I was implementing the Goku Advisor that shipped yesterday. So, these are just things that I get up to on a daily basis. What can I say? Just got to be themed like a gang war or have that vibe anyway, says Green Eggs about mirrors. Yeah. All right. When Protoss kill Protoss, everyone wins. See, Green Eggs is speaking Alexander's language. Indeed, though, it's worth pointing out, Doglived has gone Gateway Lattice, and Kasuga has gone Double Gate. In fact, Kasuga is going Double Gate into Grand Library, so we know he's not going to be expanding anytime soon. Whereas I do think that actually, even though Lattice is a little bit fragile, I think, you can probably still get to a point where you're expanding off of it. You know what I was wondering? If we make it so that you can make the Autocourt from the Nexus, in addition to the Embassy, and it just requires a Tier 1 structure, like a Gateway, Lattice, or indeed Embassy. Well, it does cut into your worker production to make it from the Nexus, so I don't know if it would actually be meta. But I was wondering if it wouldn't be good to make an Autocourt, and then, like, walk up here and build a Matrix, and then a Nexus afterwards or something to try to hold. Oh my god. 4 production on 1 base, Kasuga going haywire here. He's going balls to the wall right about now. Vassal's going to leave the building to start scouting. 1 idol was made. Without the Manifold, it feels a little bit difficult for Protoss to, like the Gateway Lattice army, to compete with what's going to be made by Kasuga. What's he going to make out of this Grand Library? He doesn't have the gas for, I guess, anything, actually, and not the minerals, so a little bit of an interesting build order. He does go for the Herald, and I guess he could go for an Ecclesiast after that. His workers are being heckled and punished. Thankfully, the Hierophant has arrived to back up the Scribe, and the flash shielding really works well on workers, because they don't have enough shields for it to start, regenerating at a significant rate. The way that it works is that after 2 seconds of not being attacked, the shields will start kicking back in, and at that point, they start at a rate of 10 HP per second, and then they decay afterwards. They start falling off each second. So it's the workers only have 15 shields, so it's not really like they are going to run out. The Rogue Gallery Scout is pretty good, though. Doglived should be aware that a Kabbalist is likely incoming. We've got a couple Nexuses pumping out workers here for Doglived, and he is making his Embassy. Oh, yeah, I like this. The Bulwark at the front is going to provide detection, and the Embassy will likely make a witness so that the ground army can move out with it, but it could just as easily make Artisans and start getting even further ahead, because we still don't have a Nexus here for Kasuga. He's adding a Warden. He's spending down as much money as he can. The Rogue Gallery looks really nice with the black color, I just noticed. Very on point for the profane nature of it. Obviously, that's an asset taken from 5 Nations. Shout out to 5 Nations. They gave us permission to use a lot of their graphics, even in commercial games, which is wild to me. But obviously, this is not that. We're still in StarCraft 1's engine, and as much as 5 Nations gave us permission, Blizzard certainly didn't. Doglived's going to go ahead and saturate his main mineral line a little bit. He has been harvesting from the geyser for some time now. And Watchpoint, this is the older version where this isn't replaced with a vestry yet, and we don't have a bunch of extra ramps opened up in a couple of spots. So, as a result, Kasuga's going to be a very sad man when he sees that he's been heckled by the Bulwark. Not fast enough reaction time to pull the guy back. And as soon as that happens, more static defense get erected. This might be a little bit puzzling to some people, because they might be like, oh, well, he held the harass. Why is he investing so much in static defense? in my opinion, this actually could work really nicely if Doglived's intention is to move out with his ground army and then use the static defense as a buffer with the reinforcements on rally over here. Because then he can maybe try to threaten a counterattack, and it's a lot harder to crack open the defender's advantage. Now, with that being said, the Herald is here, and any unit that dies in the Herald of Kasuga's is going to speed up all of Kasuga's other units that are in the area. So as long as you die within range of the Herald, that's essentially an effect that occurs. And he does have some firing power with all of his Striders. He actually has 4 Drakidins here. He clears the Vassal. The Herald is actually being focused down early, which is not really what you want if you're in Kasuga's shoes. You can see him trying to make things happen, but he really shouldn't be attacking in. He's trying to take out the Bulwark. Okay, I guess you did that, but at what cost? His own Hierophants are now tagged. He's trying to focus down individual units, but there's so much shield sustain between the Golems and, of course, the Matrixes themselves. It's impossible for Kasuga to crack this one open. He's got his Herald helping his own shield sustain up, but there's just so much tank here. Now he's trying to go after some of those idols, which are pretty squishy. We got more static defense warping in. Another Bulwark has been made. His Scribes are not going to get active. And remember, there's a Nexus on the way for Kasuga, but it's not currently mining. So he needs to do way more damage than he's done. He hasn't killed a single worker, despite all of the damage he's done to the military. And now it looks like maybe a couple of them will get popped on the way, but we've got extra Bulwark coming in for more radius. We've got the Matrixes finishing up. I really don't think Kasuga should have gone for that attack, but he did make a little bit more of a dent in the army than maybe it was expected. It just feels like it wasn't enough at the end of the day. That one Herald has, actually, I think that's a fresh one. The other one died. He's trying to go back in away from the static defense, but this is just not the right move. He's going to have to cycle back and hope that he can come back from a deficit. He's down by 10 workers. His Nexus is barely even working right now. Zealots are getting rallied in and having to be pulled away before they get heckled. And with double Bulwark, yeah, I mean, they don't stack for all of the units that are in between, but the radius is really good, and it's good detection coverage. What's been happening behind this? Ooh, okay, we're going to see a lot of Grand Libraries be added. An Atreus is sighted. You're not going to get through the Shields of the Matrix like that. Looks like Doglived wants to fancy an attack onto the Atreus specifically. It's a funny unit to pick apart, but I guess it might work. I don't know. That was confusing. Okay, he loses all but one unit. Has he triggered Kasuga to move forward again, though? This might be bait. We got 4 Matrixes, 5 Matrixes moving forward. One of them is going to go down eventually. Oh my god, the workers are going to get pulled off the line again. There's 1,000 minerals on both sides. Kasuga adding a prostration stage. It's just nothing but Amaranths coming out of those Grand Libraries as more Matrixes get started to replace the 2 that have fallen. And it's a bit silly, guys. I'm not going to lie. This is a bit of a silly game where both players have gone for offensive moves, I guess you could say, in Doglived's case, but definitely in Kasuga's, that maybe didn't quite make the most sense. But back at home, Doglived is got his embassy. Did he actually make anything? I guess he made these artisans. Prostration stage finishing up right next to the Nexus at the Natural. We got a Crucible and Grand Libraries. Another Grand Library coming up here. But Doglived is just making mass Atreus. This is a way. I was going to say the way, but then it reminded me of Star Wars, and we can't do that. But this is a way of moving through, because you look at the mass Atreus, they do so much more damage, and there is almost no shield sustain over here. One 256 chance for the Goku announcer to go into a super long voice line. It's the Zerg name pasta. Oh shit, don't say that. That's scary. All right, here we go. The move out with the 4 Atreus. He's kind of getting pinched on the ramp. I think he recognizes he needs to get down the ramp, actually. But look, now his Atreus are blocking his melee from helping out, so one of them gets picked immediately. The Herald is not long for this world if it gets focused down in any way, but it looks like Kasuga will cancel that. Not the strongest move out there from Doglived, but it looks like he can still apply a little bit of pressure. And how are you going to break this with the rally point, with the reinforcements coming? A Sycophant arrives. Good support unit, but by itself, as you can see, it's going to struggle a little bit. I do feel like Doglived's attack is a bit anemic, but he is going to make it his way in and shut down this harvesting over here. You can see Kasuga's going to have to pull away from that. Ground army still cycling back, not quite sure where it wants to go. They've killed a single scribe. So very minimal harassment. Looks like a third base trying to be come down. That is ambitious. And maybe a little bit optimistic. Doglived now skirmishing down here. His Hierophant allowing his units to stick to the enemy. Pretty good stuff there. No shield sustain for him, but he doesn't necessarily need it. The whole rest of the army for Kasuga is in the middle of the map. So our Dark Lavender Protoss here, Doglived, feels like he's controlling the game. He's up by 20 workers. He's going to double expand, and his rally point units are actually going to clear out the area in the middle, so they know for sure what's going on here. Now, a Hierophant has gone down. Sycophant and an Ecclesiast are next, and it looks like maybe one more Hierophant will go down here. So kind of an even military trade there. A Golem had also gone down for Doglived, and as the army is getting caught, he did not quite retreat the most elegantly. We've got some static defense added over here. A very, very messy game. You know what I mean? Like, this is not the most coordinated assault on either side, really. The Heralds are being struck down. There was a third one, so this one actually gave them all the vengeance movement. And that Pariah going to be worth its weight in gold for this early stage. But look at all of the Atreus's. Mass Atreus on the other side here. Not quite monocomp. The Hierophant can help out because it can give that attack speed increase. But as of right now, it still seems to be working out. You got to kill the Heralds. Otherwise, you're just going to keep giving over a ton of buffs over to the opponent. When the Herald dies, it does take enemy corpses and ascend them. So that's where you got the attack speed buff for Kasuga's army. But look at the reinforcements here. This PvP is reminding me a lot of TVT, actually, in Starcraft 1, where you just, like, you attack, but you can't quite get anywhere. I know it's not with, like, deployed units and map control in the same way, but just the way that they keep trying to attack into each other, and then the other guy has more units, you know what I mean? This is, like, reasonable mechanics on both sides. The decision-making is interesting, that's for sure. Unitary Unions added. Okay, I guess you can get some Unars or Asilians. Asilians would probably be the easiest units to pair with the Atreus based on their movement speed. Just thinking about, like, roving across the map and stuff. Very low saturation in these extra bases here, and it looks like Kasuga is going to go ahead and drop his own 3 o'clock spot. Remember, the Artisans are still in the bottom at 6, providing a little bit more resources for Doggy. P-Sense wondering where the Architects, Optectons, and Mind Tyrants are. Yeah. A kind of good question, but we do have an Ancestral Archives warping in around that Crucible, so we will see some kind of endgame Protoss. I could even take an Archon here. I think a couple Archons would be really nice. They do have the Storm passive now, so it's a little bit different than before. Ah, yes! This is exactly what we needed. Very, very good saturation. Maybe a little bit too much saturation at the natural here for Doglived. Main looks good. Yeah, baseline stuff. You could take some workers off of this depleted main now for Kasuga and I guess for Doglived as well. And start transferring them over to the other bases. But who's got the time for that? Just make more workers. Right about now, with the 2 Asilians being made a pop, Doglived is going to spike in army power. And at that point, you know, you have to wonder, is your Optecton really going to help you out too much? Now, his Atreuses are just in the middle of nowhere, and so they get cleaved immediately. But Doglived is rotating towards the bottom with a small strike force that is going to clear up bottom right and show that he's got the economic advantage for now. Up by a ridiculous amount, like 35 workers. We're looking at Kasuga not in the best of spots economically. Doglived is basically at 4 base now, even before saturating his actual 4 bases, thanks to the Artisans. And an Archon is going to be the unit du jour for Kasuga. I do feel like, at this point, Optecton Mind Tyrant is probably a good go. But Doglived does have a pretty fearsome amount of units, and the Asilians do have really good armor pens, so they ignore the armor of the Pariah. They ignore the armor of a lot of these units, actually. I think every single unit here doesn't have enough armor to exceed the Asilians armor pen. There it is, armor pen of 5. Some of the Asilians are being left over in defensive postures. I don't know if that's intentional or not. Also, remember that the worker difference isn't actually as pronounced as it initially seems, because there's a big oversaturation in the natural. Well, the Bulwark finished just in time to snipe out the Witness, so that's unfortunate for Kasuga. He's massing up in the middle. Going across the 15-minute mark. There's an Uptecton finally showing up. Some of the endgame tech there. Protoss accesses it a bit more piecemeal. And now we got some Unars out. So the Unars are what I was kind of holding my breath for. I think if Unars come out, you can't really get away with Mind Tyrant Uptecton anymore. The Unars can just kind of right-click the Mind Tyrant and it's over. Well, plenty of units here to try to take this fight, and including in them a bunch of Asilians. We'll see how long these pariahs last. A lot of the melee stuck over here for Kasuga. He hasn't rotated them around to try to, split the bounce damage. Instead, he's just kind of fighting in it. The longer this fight goes, with these Asilians still alive, the better it is for Doglived, but they've all been cut down. The Charlatans cloning so much damage onto the Atriuses. Definitely going to be a consequential fight. Now he's adding a Mind Tyrant for his Uptectons. One of them is already out. The other one, presumably. Yeah, there it is. Okay, he's actually already linked it up. So, again, the Unars are a really good choice here for Doglived to try to have a little bit of counterplay. I think Architects are also pretty good in that situation, but Unars just right-click and deal 100 damage. So it's hard to beat, You can do oh, look at this! He's just going to try to dive right onto the unit. You can't really block the Uptecton due to the way that it works, of course, but he's going to see if he can go after the Mind Tyrant itself. And he does it! That's really good there. So there's not going to be... That's well worth the strike force that he sent out there for it, since they were estranged from the rest of the army anyway. The Unars can also focus down individual targets. Maybe you can try to isolate the Charlatans. There's plenty of Unars that are still left to come here. And yeah, we have the Mind Tyrant coming back in for it. I've thought about what I might want to change about the Mind Tyrant, and I feel like the Asset Seizure probably needs to drain Mind Tyrant energy, and if it's below a certain amount, it can't actually take enemy units. Probably will help out a little bit there for the sanity check. Only a couple Atrius is being converted now, but that Unar could be going down pretty soon. And again, you really want to keep the Unar on your side, and in general, have it going, have it working. The split is really, really good for Doglived in terms of the concave, but he doesn't really have his units firing on the right targets here. If only he had some of those Unars more towards the south of the fight, he could have actually taken out the Uptectons. I think it takes 6 Unar shots to kill an Uptecton. I'm pretty sure. They ignore the Uptecton armor, so I'm pretty sure the Unars definitely help out there. Oh my god, no. Eviscerated. Well, Doglived is being staring down right into the eye of the beholder right now. Multiple Mind Tyrants for Kasuga. Slowly clearing him out. It felt like he had all the tools necessary. He even added a third unitary to make more of those very, very important Unars. His army having a hard time cycling back. Now we know that the Mind Tyrants are exposed to the retreat path. We'll see if Kasuga is going to be able to save them. It looks like he is going to cycle over his own Atriuses. Archon going down, casting a storm. Not really super consequential right about now. Reinforcements coming in from Kasuga's side. He hasn't linked that Uptecton yet, but it doesn't necessarily matter. Looks like it's honestly the end of Dogliv's army. Look at the bank. He's got so much money that he could be spending. But he is losing top left, and it looks like Doglived is going to call GG as his 6 o'clock artisans are found. Again, he had so much money, but sometimes people look at their cash and they're like, shit, I didn't spend any of my money. GG. So that really felt like Doglived had the tools to counter what he was going up against, but just maybe didn't have the know-how. So maybe a learning experience for him.